Hey, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to talk about nootropics. And I just started playing around with nootropics a little bit more seriously in the last couple months. In fact, a student of mine in my course told me about the company that he was checking out, and it happened to be like the right day for me. And I had a little extra time, so I was like, oh, I'll check this out. The site's called Find My Formula, and I'm an affiliate for Find My Formula, but I actually like the product quite a bit. In fact, I got my first order here, and these are all empty. These are all empty right here. But I got my first formula set for a month, and went through the protocol, which I'll sort of explain in a second here. And then I really liked what I experienced, and I was getting a lot more done. I will explain how I quantify that as well, which is it's actually a little subjective, but that's okay. And then I'll tell you about the different formulas that they have. The ones that I ended up with are creativity, clarity, energy, and logic. And I will tell you when and why I take each one, or maybe why I would pick a different one, and sort of like, I guess, the flaws and downside to subjectively having to rate how your day went and that sort of thing. So that's what we're going to talk about. And if you're completely unfamiliar with nootropics, I will probably butcher the definition. I should have looked this up ahead of time, but basically it's something that you can take, orally through your mouth. You could probably do other stuff too, but like basically we're talking about things that you eat and then it helps your brain, right? So you can be more effective. That was my goal, to be more effective and get more done. Now, I've dabbled with some nootropics in the past, but the reason why I pulled the plug and went forward with Find My Formula is, and I'm checking out their website right here. The thing is, they have you go through a questionnaire, and they tell you like everyone's different, right? Everyone is different, and people react to different drugs in different ways, and people have different goals. So, when I was looking at nootropics before, I remember actually I was over at the GNC, the General Nutrition Center in my neighborhood here, and they had some sort of nootropic brain formula stuff, and I was looking at it and I was like, it seems good, but I don't know what any of these like chemicals are in there that I'm going to put in my body, and there's only one kind in there, and I was like, that doesn't seem exactly right. And the danger that I'm aware of is, and I'm just speculating, but any sort of vitamin or anything like that, like if you take a lot of it over time, it could be really hard on your kidneys or your liver or whatever. And like, there's not really any sort of explanation on there for like long-term ingestion or whatever. So I'm rambling on a little bit here, but the cool part when you head over to Find My Formula is the process goes like this. So you take an assessment. It's about 4 minutes or so. They ask you questions about like what you want to get done, what are your goals with taking nootropics, and sort of your working style and several other things. It's fairly fast, and they have a lot of data, all right? So they have a lot of data through a few years of, this sort of data gathering. So they know certain like formulas work well for certain types of tasks. So based on what you want to get done and your working style and all that kind of stuff, they will send you a pack with, I'm not sure how many different things they give you, but it seems to be like 4 different packs. That's what I've gotten in mine. So it's personalized. And for me, let's try to get this to focus. So I ended up with the energy blend, the logic formula, and clarity, and creativity. So, and each one of them has, and I believe you can, get this information on the website. It has like the formula of what you're taking. So I believe that is one of the flaws in the nootropic like industry is you may be taking like a proprietary blend where you don't know what's in there, which, okay, it's proprietary and the company doesn't want you to like remanufacture and become their competition, or maybe put it together yourself and save money or something like that. But the flaw is you don't know what you're taking, so there could be something dangerous in there, or something that you don't want to continuously take all the time. So I will tell you about what I take and when. So I don't remember what I answered in the questionnaire exactly, but I will just kind of go through each one of these and what I have been using it for. So first, we'll start off with the creativity. And for creativity, typically that is when I'm trying to, come up with new ideas or write. So I end up writing a decent amount for my blog, or maybe creating outlines or brainstorming for videos or podcasts, that sort of thing. So creativity is to sort of open up those channels and, help me not be inhibited by, whatever, my like indecision and that sort of thing. So writing, typically I take that for writing. Next is logic. So the logic formula I usually take when I'm doing some analytical work, spreadsheets, if I'm doing some spreadsheet work or analyzing data, that is going to be the logic formula. So typically I don't have to do a ton of that, but I do enjoy it. And I know a lot of the tools and analytics that I look at from a marketing perspective, I enjoy it. So I dig in, and I honestly do pretty well at analytical stuff anyway. So also with the logic, I've sort of mapped out process flows, and I've mapped out how, for example, I have several, not on purpose, but I have many different apps and tools and things in my sales and marketing funnel for my business that are pieced together and integrated. And it's a mess sometimes, I'll be honest with you. It's a mess, and sometimes these tools don't necessarily work together perfectly. So if I'm trying to figure out a problem with the sales funnel or the flow of what's going to happen and when, logic is a good thing to have at that point as well. Next is clarity. So clarity is the one that I take when I am doing interviews, when I am speaking to the camera, and hopefully I've been doing a good job being clear and stating what I actually mean. Now, every now and then I will start a sentence and I don't know where it's going. I typically don't script these out. Sometimes I'll have a loose outline, which in this one I actually have a loose outline, and I write it on a Post-it note. So there's not a ton of detail here at all, but with clarity, my hope is that I am, finding the right words in my brain, and I'm saying what I mean so that I can communicate in a clear way. So clarity. And finally, energy. So the energy formula is one that I try not to take too often, because I assume that there's probably some pretty, potent stimulants in there, and I don't want to take that every day. So I have been taking the energy blend, the energy formula, when I have had a poor night of sleep, or I'll be honest with you, when I've had a couple beers the night before, and maybe I'm feeling a little tired the next morning, and I'm like, all right, I just want to do this. I will take that. Additionally, after talking to the founders at Find My Formula, I know that the energy formula is a great pre-workout supplement. So if I'm going to lift weights and I'm I really want to lift heavy weights today, I really want to get into it, or I really, I'm tired and I want to have a decent workout, I may take that. I feel like I don't want to use any of these, by the way, as a crutch on an ongoing basis. So if I have a bad night of sleep, which happens from time to time, then obviously, maybe I take it the next day. But I don't want it to be a habitual day after day thing. Hence, I think I mentioned it at the beginning, I was taking 1 to 2 of the packets per day. Which, by the way, I could show you one of the packets here. So I was taking 1 to 2 per day, which is what they recommend. You could take 1 or 2 of them, and it's totally up to you, based on how you're, running your day. I personally, there's a little caffeine in almost all of them, 100 milligrams, which is about, I think it's equivalent to like a kind of a weak cup of coffee, at least how I make the coffee. So I usually, wouldn't take one of these after about 2 p.m. or so. And typically I'm sort of monitoring like my caffeine intake so I don't have too much throughout the entire day, just because of the half-life of caffeine, and I don't want to have trouble falling asleep, which I usually don't. Lately I've been going to sleep around 9 to 10 p.m. So fairly early for a lot of people, and I also wake up pretty early, so it's easier to go to sleep early if you've been up for a while. Now, I don't always take one of these like first thing in the morning. For me, I found that after about 30 minutes, that's when it kicks in for me for any of them. I believe in the documentation over at Find My Formula, they mention, give it, about an hour. It depends on the person and probably a number of factors. I assume it probably matters like if you have food on your stomach or if you don't have food on your stomach, and how sensitive you are to stimulants and some of the other drugs that are in here. But your mileage may vary. So for me, I found like 30 minutes, basically they kicked in. And I believe when I was talking to Adam, one of the founders over at Find My Formula, I believe he said they try and make the blend so that it, like the half-life and it's out of your system within like 5 hours for most people. So I could be making that up. So definitely read the FAQs on the site there. But that was sort of my observation for the most part. However, depending on, the particular day, I felt like I got the effects like throughout my entire workday. Now, part of it could be like caffeine, like caffeine related, just through coffee and tea and other, I guess those are the only two things that I have that I drink that have caffeine. But I will drink coffee throughout the day. I don't have coffee every single day. I have been trying to have more like black tea and green tea, and sometimes like the yerba mate. So I try and mix it up so I'm not always having the same thing. Now, I have been guilty of having coffee for like every day, like a whole lot of it, like 3-4 cups for like, 3 months straight, that sort of thing. So I am trying to cut it back just a little bit, rein that in, and be a little bit smarter about my intake. So the whole point is, I believe, 4 to 5 hours is about how long you're going to get the push from any one of the respective formulas here. However, if you have like some caffeine or other stimulants in your system, maybe it's gonna like push on a little bit farther. And that, I think that's what was happening with me. I just maybe had like another cup of coffee as I was coming down, and maybe it lasted longer. Maybe it was just kind of in my head. Now, next thing is, how do you know if this stuff is working or not? That's pretty tough. That is a tough thing to figure out because there are so many factors going on, right? There's so many variables in your productivity and what you're getting done that it can be hard to tell. So what I did is I created just a text document. Actually, I was using Evernote, but you could keep a journal or do whatever you want. But I would write down, the date. I would write down what I took. So maybe clarity. I would write down the time that I took it, and I would set a timer for 1 hour. And I would write down sort of like how I felt after 1 hour, so that I kind of had a handle on, do I feel tired? Do I have, luckily I didn't have any adverse effects or any side effects that I noticed. So, but it could be possible that maybe you have a headache if you take a particular one, or maybe it upsets your stomach, for example, or maybe it makes you sleepy. I don't know why that would happen, but you should try to write down what's going on, because it's totally possible that you just don't process one of the chemicals in one of the formulas. So definitely want to keep track of that. Like I said, I didn't have any issues, and typically I was like, I feel pretty good. I have a little bit more energy. I seem to be focusing a little bit better. Now, I want to also clarify that I highly recommend, just even if you're not taking anything like this, or if you're just having a cup of coffee or something, like you should be like really clear about what you're trying to get done that day, or in that work session. Because if you're not clear about what you're going to get done and what you're going to work on, it'll be really easy. It's super easy to accidentally, this is me, by the way, I will think, hey, I need to check on one email so that I can do this task. I hop over to my inbox and there's too many emails, and there's a couple, I hop in and I read an email and I get distracted and I forget about the original thing that I was trying to do. So it's super helpful if you could just get a little piece of paper and write down like the 1 or 2 things that you're going to get done in that work session. If you want to, you could like sculpt your whole day and architect your whole day there, so that you know what you're working on like through the day. Or you could just write down the one thing that you're going to get done in that work session, however long it may be, depending on what you're working on, your work schedule, all your constraints. The point here is, even if you have like tons of rest, right? You have all the rest that you need. You are taking some nootropics to supplement whatever activity that you're going to be doing. If you get distracted by little things, or maybe you're working in a cafe and there's just too much stuff going on, like if you don't have everything else set up for success, none of this stuff is going to help you at all. In fact, if you're not getting enough rest habitually over time, like it's just not going to work out, right? You can fake it for a long time, and you can be sleep deprived, and I've done this for months at a time. But once you start like being healthy, getting the rest that you need, you'll probably realize that you're walking around like a zombie while you weren't getting enough sleep, at least for portions of the day. I know that's what I discovered. So from a productivity standpoint and just being effective, you should understand what you're trying to get done and set yourself up for success by sort of having like the whole environment ready for you to get stuff done. Now, one of the cool things with having the YouTube channel and a podcast is I was able to interview Adam Greenfeld from Find My Formula, one of the founders over there. So he had some great insight about evaluating and understanding like what's effective for you as far as nootropics go, and maybe everything else in life too. And it was funny because, I was asking him, how am I supposed to tell, like, is this working? Like, is it working for me? Like, how am I supposed to understand like what's good and what's bad and all those things? So number one, he let me know some people like they get a headache from certain things or whatever. And like I said, I didn't have that issue, but you could just not enjoy taking a certain formula for whatever reason. So one of the cool things that came up in the conversation with Adam was a conversation he had with his dad. And that was around just, was it a good day? Did you get a lot of stuff done or not? And he mentioned that his father like had to commute for his drive to work and stuff. So typically it was like he felt like he had a good day if on the way home he felt good about it, right? Like he wasn't stressed out by the commute home. And I thought that was interesting because I realized for myself, as I was trying out and testing these nootropics, whenever my wife got home, we'll chat about our day, right? Like people do. So how was your day? Anything good happen? Anything bad happen? Any interesting stories? And basically over the month, most days when she got home, I would say, I got a lot done today. It was awesome. And depending on what I had going on and what nootropic I took, I was like, I had like 3 interviews today, and I think they went great. In fact, some of the people mentioned to me, you asked some really good questions, that was fun, that sort of thing. Or a couple days when I was writing, I took the creativity formula and I was hoping to get 500 words out, and it takes me a little bit of time to get the words out. But that particular day, once I got into the groove, I wrote for, instead of 1 to 1.5 hours, I wrote for like 2.5. I took some breaks, but 2.5 to 3 hours, and I got out about 1,500 to 1,800 words, something like that. But I got way more done than I was expecting. So that was sort of my barometer. Like at the end of the day, was I impressed? Was I happy with how much I got done? And did it feel like I was struggling through the day, or was I like really, crushing my to-do list and getting through it? So that was my like sort of takeaway. One of the big takeaways with a conversation with Adam is like, did you feel good at the end of the day? If the answer is yes, then you're probably moving in the right direction. And if you are, not happy with it, maybe reflect on why. Like, was it not enough rest the day before? Maybe it was food and appetite related, which I also have been experimenting with intermittent fasting. And I have found that when I am fasting, my brain is like operating on a different level. And I heard people talk about this and I was like, whatever, like it probably doesn't matter that much, but holy shit, it makes a massive difference. Very big difference, at least for me, because if I'm not paying attention, I will eat garbage, basically. I will just eat the most terrible stuff. But when I'm fasting, I am more conscious about it, and my appetite's a little bit, it shifts, it shifts around a little bit based on how long I'm fasting and that sort of thing. I don't want to digress too much with the fasting, but the point is, at the end of the day, do you feel good about like the work that you've accomplished? Was it easy? Was it hard? And part of the other thing that I can mention in here to sort of tie it together is in my text document that I was putting together for for what I was taking and how I felt after 1 hour and, later in the day. I was also, as much as I could, I was noting like, hey, did I sleep well? Did I eat a lot of food yesterday on the weekend? So I eat pretty well during the week, and over the weekends, I'm a little bit more flexible, and I do eat the garbage that I was telling you about. A lot of pizza, a lot of beer, burgers if I can get a hold of them, and I just eat whatever. I don't eat too many desserts, but on the weekends, my wife likes desserts, so I will. I'm a monster. I'll eat whatever is in front of me, basically. So the point here is I was trying to keep track of like, did I sleep well? Other factors, right? Other variables out there. Every now and then, right, I would run into issues beyond my control. And this happens to everyone all the time, whether you have a job, whether you work for someone, you work for yourself, or you're a student or whatever. Shit happens like all the time. And there were definitely a few times, in fact, this happened last Friday, I was going to sit down to do X, Y, or Z, and there were tech issues holding me back. And there was like tech issue after tech issue after tech issue. And I luckily made it through without losing my shit too much. But as I was going through, it's just like, here's another problem to solve. Here's another problem to solve. Oh yeah, all of the things that I was planning on getting done, I'm not going to get those done, but that is okay because we were solving problems along the way. So I think that is another, piece of the puzzle too. Like, even if you have set yourself up for success, you got the rest, you're doing the things, and you have everything laid out in a plan, a nice little plan, something's going to happen with your plan. Something's going to go wrong, and you have to be able to like roll with it a little bit. So flexibility and like being able to adapt and solve those problems that come up, very important as well. So this ended up being a long, rambling situation, but I think the main takeaways are it could be interesting if you want to test out some nootropics. I have found that the formula, methodology where they take into account that everyone is different. People have different goals, and you can get the formulas that you need or that you want to try out anyway, and then see how they work for you. Because it's not one size fits all. And if you check out some of the other companies in the space, they have like one product, right? They have one thing that they're pushing, or maybe two. And when you think about it, it doesn't quite make sense. At best, they are compromising on certain pieces. At best, they are putting like kind of some stuff together that should probably work for most people. But essentially, that is the least common denominator, right? When you are getting the one size fits all nootropic, you're getting a compromise, right? You have to. There's no way around it. It can't be awesome for everything. It's not possible. So when you're a little bit smarter about it and you take the time to think about what you're going to work on, how you want to think about like whatever the process is, like I said, working through spreadsheets and looking at data analytics, logic is probably the right way to go. So anyway, I can ramble on forever. If you want to see more of these, let me know. I am really enjoying going through like testing and using these products here. And I've tested out some other stuff before too. I wasn't super happy with like some of the results, or maybe I just didn't even notice anything at all. So anyway, leave a comment below if you have any questions. Again, I'm an affiliate for Find My Formula. You get a discount, I get a commission, and it's a win-win. So have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.